The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
I love Travis on board from yesterday's topic already. He's put some thought into it. I'll get to the message board. Love that. Go ahead and post what you expect out of Tennessee and the SEC tournament, because we'll discuss what the Vols need to do. Travis already on the message board. He's up and at 'em. He said that I've thought on it. We should put forth an 80% effort to win the tournament with a ton of rotation, mostly just to keep our rhythm for the dance. Isn't that the most difficult part? It's like making etouffee or gumbo. Caleb, I don't know if you have any Louisiana ties, but the roux that you have to make those things is the most difficult part. So Travis basically said, everything's fine. Just go ahead and do the triple Lutz. The triple Lutz is difficult. So keeping your rhythm through an SEC tournament that basically means nothing into an NCAA tournament, that's the difficult part, Caleb, right? How are you, sir?
Yeah, no, that's very difficult. It's basically, I won't go etouffee and gumbo as much as I love it. I do. My brother did get married in New Orleans, so I do have a little bit of ties there, but not much. He went to school there. But I thought more along the lines of just Thanksgiving. You don't want to overcook your turkey, but you sure as heck don't want to undercook your turkey. And you got to find exactly where to get it right.
Okay. Don't do Thanksgiving with me because I lean towards the undercooking. It's got to be moist. So Caleb would be like, is this still a little pink?
No, I'm fine. No, actually, no. I prefer the people who lean towards the undercooking because they like you overcook it. The minute you cut it, it just dries out and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna tell you a little bit later in the program who Tennessee is necessarily rooting for in this SEC tournament. Also, what the Vols need to do in the SEC tournament. Would you rather be a 1 seed in the West or a 2 seed in the South or either of the other two regions? Nate Oats says Alabama would have won the SEC title if he had a player that was injured. I'm getting to the point where I really don't like Nate Oats, and there's a couple of reasons why, and we'll get into that. Alabama's head coach in the basketball world, that's they got that Kalen DeBoer now in football. Spring safeties preview. The Vols open spring practice in just a couple of days, so we'll have a complete safeties preview brought to you by our friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. Should players make a run at TV revenue? Because that's kind of out there, and they really don't get any of that despite all they've gotten this day in Tennessee sports history. And Peyton Manning is hosting the Olympics. So there is a lot going on, Caleb Calhoun. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. So let's go ahead and begin it right now with today's tough question, and we'll make that our poll question today as well. Today's tough question is right now.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, Caleb, you posed the question, so I'll just ask you, what do the Vols need to do in the SEC tournament? And I will just open it up to interpretation. What say you?
I think, believe it or not, Tennessee has to win the SEC tournament if they want a 1 seed. And my reasoning for that is they are number 5 in both polls. I think right now the selection committee is valuing Houston, UConn, Purdue, and North Carolina above Tennessee. Houston, UConn, Purdue are clear cuts. They have 3 losses. They have 28 wins. They have a significantly better record. Their BPI index, like everything about them those are the 3 clear-cut number 1 seeds. So it comes down to Tennessee and North Carolina. And North Carolina has a better record and beat Tennessee this year. So I think just with that simple fact, I think at this moment, they're leading Houston, UConn, Purdue, and North Carolina. So I think to get a number 1 seed, Tennessee's going to have to win the SEC tournament, and they're going to have to hope that either Purdue, North Carolina, somebody like that just gets bounced out immediately, pretty much. And because as you and I know, they already don't place a lot of value on the conference tournaments. And so I think it has to be a significant gap where Tennessee wins it and one of the other 4 is bounced out in the first, like today or tomorrow.
Okay, so I'm going to pose this as today's tough question. Does a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament really matter to you? Tennessee's never done it before. So, yes, it's history. Never done it. No, a number 2 seed is fine. And you can go ahead and vote on that right now on our YouTube page. And we would certainly appreciate that. And also, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button as we're up and rolling now. We'll get into what it matters and where they could be seated. To me, I don't think it matters. I'm going to take issue with one thing you said. I don't think it matters what you do really on Saturday or Sunday. And I've seen this before in tournaments that I've covered that people would say, oh, you can play yourself up a seed. When did they go to the pod format where they make it more geographically pleasing for fans? Do you remember? Was that about 10, 15 years ago?
Wasn't it when they started the 60-18 format, which was 2011, I believe?
Okay.
No, the pod was enacted before the 2002 tournament. Never mind. It was about 21 years ago.
Okay, so I see no way that you could go ahead and chuck your whole bracket if you're the selection committee because Tennessee makes a special run. I think you really have to do one of 2 things, Caleb. I think you either have to flame out first game, look horrible, and then that could cost you a seed, or just get to Saturday. Because at Saturday, the selection committee's putting together their brackets, aside from the upsets that could happen in the smaller conference tournaments where they get the automatic bids. I believe that they've got the bracket pretty much done when they head into Sunday morning. I don't think that actually that's going to affect Tennessee all that much. We shall see. Portions of the program brought to you by our friends at BetUS, your college basketball betting home. March is here. Get 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 plus 10% gamblers insurance. Go ahead and click right below. Again, you get all of that thanks to Off the Hook Sports and our relationship with BetUS. So, Caleb, what about chemistry? What about flow? What about rhythm? Does that matter? Brought to you by BetUS.
America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
All right, Caleb, how much does the rhythm aspect of it matter?
I mean, not too much. I actually wanted to address what you said about the seeding real quick and making it to Saturday. Because I actually think you're wrong on that. And here's why. Okay. I spoke out of turn, actually. Arizona's 4th in the basketball power index. North Carolina's down. North Carolina's 4th in the AP and coaches poll, I believe. So it's down to Tennessee and Arizona. Tennessee's 5th. What if Tennessee and Arizona both make it to Saturday? Do you think Arizona's locked in at the number 1 seed at that point?
Okay, I'll give you that. I think there are unusual situations. I definitely didn't want to make a blanket statement. So yeah, I think there are unusual situations, but for the most part, I think with the logistics, and I think you would agree with this, with the logistics that are in place, you've got to have like a 95% feel for where you're sending people on Sunday morning if you're the selection committee.
I think the selection committee has already made Purdue, UConn, and Houston number 1 seeds. We agree. It doesn't matter what happens in the conference tournament. Those are number 1 seeds, period, end of story.
Probably, yes.
So they probably fill out the whole bracket. And then they wait with Tennessee and Arizona. They're just going to wait and see what happens in the tournament. I do think that, and North Carolina too, by the way. I think North Carolina is making a bigger push than people think. With those 3, I think they're going to wait and see what happens in the tournament. If Tennessee, I think has to. But see, I'm steelmaning your point though. I think they are because they're leaning Arizona. I think to get a number 1 seed, Tennessee has to win the tournament and Arizona has to flame out. If Arizona gets to Saturday, it's over. Tennessee's not going to get 1 seed.
Okay, I could see that in that one particular case where you've got an easy flip. I don't think 4 or 5 or 6 of the top schools are all battling. So
No.
I think we've found a common ground now there. Portions of the program brought to you by friends at Rick Terry Jewelry Design. They want to be your jeweler. Looking for affordable game day jewelry. How about the Fire Opals? Man, they look fantastic out in the sun at the baseball game, those diamond balls. A Tennessee tradition, rickterryjewelry.com. rickterryjewelry.com. We certainly appreciate them. What about the rhythm factor? Let me go back to that. What do you need to do to make sure that you keep your rhythm? I mean, I would say ultimately to keep your rhythm, you blow everybody out by 30 and you run through the tournament and the combined winning score is 90 to 100 points. But that's not realistic, is it?
No, win on Friday. Win on Friday, play 20 minutes with your starters on Saturday. That'll keep you in rhythm for next Thursday. And by the way, the rhythm thing is overrated if you're a high enough seed. Because now I get it. People are going to come at me, well, 15 teams have upset number 2 seeds before. Okay. And I'm just going to say this, guys. That rarely happens. Most of the time, and you know this, Dave, the 2 versus 15 is a fall out of bed victory for the 2 seed. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. If you're a 1 or 2 seed and you lose, you've really bleeped the bed.
Exactly. So I don't worry too much about rhythm because even if you're off for an extended period of time, you'll just get your rhythm back playing that first round game against the 15 seed. I mean,
that's fair. I'll say this too. Somebody posted on the message board, win 2 games in the NCAA tournament. I'm sorry, win 2 games in the SEC tournament. Excuse me. Actually, that would be the worst thing that I would want to happen because if I'm a Tennessee fan, I would rather them just lose the first game, get more rest, or win it all. To make it to Saturday and lose is actually the worst possibility in my mind. Then there's some vulnerability. And we haven't factored in vulnerability at all. Is vulnerability not a factor? I mean, this team's playing really well at a high level. You like that confidence. Do we underestimate that, especially in basketball, football? I don't think that confidence necessarily matters as much because you go out there and hit the other guy and you're going to know if you're a bigger, badder man than him. But in basketball, you hand in the cookie jar when you're shooting, not pulling a string. So, Caleb, are we underestimating that at all?
No, because most teams don't win their conference tournament that win the national title. It's just history has proven that out. And so I don't really think it's that. I mean, honestly, I just don't think it's that big of a deal. I want to go to the women's side real quick. I think Pat Summitt only won the conference tournament title, and I'm dead serious on this. You can look it up. She only won it 3 of her 8 national titles, and she didn't win it 5 of her 8 national titles. So I just don't think it matters that much. I think you'll get your rhythm when you play your first round game against a team you should beat. It's funny what you said about making it to Sunday. There's a great Chris Rock stand-up where he says he dropped out of school in the 10th grade, and he's like, that's the dumbest thing you can do. Because you got the same qualifications as someone who dropped out in the 2nd grade at that point, and the person who dropped out in the 2nd grade has an 8-year head start on their career, on their resume than you do. So it's kind of this, it's basically that. Making it to Sunday and losing is dropping out in the 10th grade versus losing on Friday, which is dropping out in the 2nd grade. And you got the same qualifications either way for the NCAA tournament.
Would you rather be a number 2 seed closer to home, or would you rather be a number 1 seed in the West? Because it looks like the best that Tennessee can do is be the 4th number 1 seed, which means they would get the least preferential treatment of the number 1 seeds and probably sent out west. Would you rather be the number 1 seed out west, or would you rather be a number 2 seed closer to home?
So, all year.
Here he goes. I'm waiting for the voice too. Go ahead.
No. All year, I was a believer that you would rather be a number 2 seed closer to home, I flipped.
When
And I'll
did
tell
you
you why.
flip?
When I did some research on Arizona.
Okay. Let me hear that research. Caleb's flip brought to you by Boundless Moving. You can flip too from one home to the other. And with their 2-hour minimum, you can do that, or turnkey operations. Boundless Moving in East Tennessee, Boundless Moving in Charlotte as well, in North Carolina. They've got you covered. Their motto, personal service without limits, not just a tagline. It's their DNA. Why did you flip? Brought to you by Boundless Moving.
I flipped because Arizona plays a style of basketball that Rick Barnes used to like to play that got him eliminated from the NCAA tournament every year. And so if they were the number 1 seed, Arizona would be the 2 seed in that bracket. I'm just going to be honest. Arizona plays really big. They like to slow it down. I think Tennessee matches up so well with Arizona. I think Rick Barnes can play small ball. I think he can get Josiah Jordan-James down on the perimeter to turn up the notch a little bit with the outlet passes. I think he only needs Jonas Adu to match what they do inside, and he can just play tempo for 40 minutes. And I don't think Arizona's going to be equipped to do it. And I think that if you just put the pressure on Arizona in an Elite Eight matchup, now this is assuming they get to the Elite Eight, but everybody was wanting to be a 1 seed, a 2 seed somewhere else because they like the matchup better than being a 1 seed against Arizona. I like being a 1 seed against Arizona. I think Tennessee matches up with them thoroughly perfectly.
That's crazy.
Caleb, that is crazy, Caleb. You want to be a 1 seed. Come on. You always want to
This is being a 1 seed. This is being a 1 seed.
A 1 seed out west or a 2 seed close to home?
I'm saying you'd rather be a 1 seed out west.
Okay, but what about the fans? The fans, are they going to make it to LA, the crypto.com arena?
You know, Dave, you've covered Tennessee long enough. Don't you think Vol fans travel well?
They do, but that's a big ask to turn in 6 days, basically. Or no, like 4 days to buy a ticket to LA. I'm going to guess that's pretty pricey.
I don't think Tennessee needs home. I don't think Tennessee needs fans at home for that first weekend. I think they should be able to sleepwalk their way to the second weekend of the tournament.
Okay, so on our message board does actually on our YouTube page, go ahead and give us a vote now. Does a number 1 seed in NCAA tournament really matter to you? Yes, it's history. Never done it. Gets 61% of the vote. No, number 2 is fine. Gets 39% of the vote. It's definitely close, Caleb. I don't think it's a cut and dry situation. I'm going to say being a number 1 seed is something. Now, I don't want Tennessee and Rick Barnes and the sports information / publicity department over there tooting their horn if that's what he makes. Okay, if Tennessee gets bounced out in the second round, I don't want them looking back, oh, first number 1 seed of all time. He is fantastic. That would be very off-putting. What would you think of that? Brought to you by Don Self at State Farm. Customer service still matters. Don Self in Chattanooga will take care of you. 423-396-2126 or go to donself.net, donself.net. Donself.net. When it comes time for a claim, he's got you taken care of. Everybody shops prices, but donself.net in the Chattanooga area. That's my thing, Caleb, is if Tennessee's a number 1 seed, I don't know that it's anything necessarily for Rick Barnes or the Vols to brag about. There are times that they should have been a 1 seed under Jerry Green. There are times that Rick Barnes has been a 1 seed and not gotten at Texas, I'm sure, and not gotten to the Final Four more than once. To me, I think it's very debatable what that means. Is it exciting to be a 1 seed? Yeah. I'll ask you this, too. Does it put more pressure on you, Caleb?
I think the pressure is the same for 1 and 2s. I think 1 and 2s are interchangeable. I've always felt 1 and 2s are interchangeable. So for me, this is all just the history thing. You guys just make me sick. Y'all just make me sick caring about this history stuff.
No,
what, you hang a banner?
Right. You're wrong.
You hang a banner for a number 1 seed? What happens if you're a number 1 seed and you get bounced out in the first weekend? You still going to hang that banner? You still going to hang that banner, guys?
Hang a banner for being a 1 seed, but you do brag about it. It's a big deal. And
it's a participation trophy.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you brag about being number 1 back in 2022 for the first college football playoff selection committee show? Absolutely you do, Caleb. Come on. You brag about that. It didn't result in anything. You got a lot more exposure off of it. Your basketball program would get more exposure off being a number 1 seed than not. I mean, come on, you can't say it's nothing. You can. I like the word interchangeable as far as pressure, but as far as the pub, it's not interchangeable, man. If you're a 1 seed, you're getting some big time national love.
I don't think the pub is going to have any impact on recruiting. Okay, I just don't. So I don't think it's a big deal. I mean,
why would you not think that?
Because Rick Barnes is already getting top 5 classes. And honestly, I don't even like Rick Barnes recruiting high-level talent to Tennessee because Rick Barnes doesn't do well with one and dones. He does well with the 3-star that stays 2 to 3 years.
Guys on the message board, help me with this because I think
That's crazy.
Caleb has gone too far. You absolutely want to be a 1 seed. They will be displayed up on the screen 10 times more than any other seed.
I'm so
We have a second voice. Please don't do that one before. I mean, come on. I mean, if you're up on the screen, that's a lot of pub. And to say that some guy from Europe couldn't be watching, and
watching
say,
if you're number 2.
I want to see the accomplishment. Fallout Zone's on Team Caleb. Do you agree with this? I'm looking for one person that agrees.
By the way, and you know what? You backed me into a corner on this. I actually said I'd rather be the number 1 seed out west, but that's because of the matchup with Arizona. It has nothing to do with the seeding. It has to do with the matchup of playing Arizona potentially in the Elite 8. That's what I'm thinking about. Now, I want the debate of would you rather have a home crowd or have a matchup that you like? We can go back and forth on that. I think that's reasonable. To be like, I like the number 1 next to my name because I feel special. Okay, come on, guys. Seriously? Like, what are we, 12?
Okay. No. There's a big difference between wanting to be like a 7 seed and a 4 seed and getting the short end of the stick from the selection committee as Tennessee has before and being a 4 or a 7. There's a huge difference there in play, but there's not a big difference between, in my opinion, being a 3 and a 2, but being a 2 and a 1 from the publicity standpoint, you have got to give me that.
A 2 and a 1 from the publicity standpoint? No, being a 1 is worse. If you really want to talk publicity for a minute, if you're a 1 seed and you don't make the Final Four, it's more embarrassing. So then the story is that you're a team who choked. And now all the publicity that we've talked about with Rick Barnes choking in the big game, Dave, that becomes international publicity that he chokes.
Okay.
And
no, it does. You're right. You're right. A 1 seed, if he were to slip up in the first 2 rounds, even potentially the first 3, wouldn't look good. Even if he slipped up in the Sweet 16, you're like a 1 seed. Well, you should have gotten there anyway, right?
Yeah. People are going to consider him a choker if he slips up in the Sweet 16. So I think it's worse, honestly. Let's do a little history for a minute. Because you brought up the college football playoff. Let's go back to 98 when Tennessee hit number 1. I think you distinctly remember it. Tennessee hit number 1 after beating UAB because Nick Saban led the Spartans to an upset over Ohio State. You probably remember that game like yesterday, don't you, Dave?
I do.
And remember how all the papers were like
tacos that night.
Really?
Yeah, it was in Austin.
What were you doing in Austin?
Wait, I thought you're referring to the North Carolina game in the NCAA tournament, right?
No, I'm saying football. Go back to football.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wow, Dave didn't even listen to what I said, guys. Did y'all notice that?
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, Dave. 1998, Tennessee football. They reached number 1 in November after beating UAB. You covered that game, right?
Yes.
They reached number 1 after Michigan State, led by Nick Saban, upset Ohio State. Remember that game?
Okay. Yes.
They were number 1. Do you remember how all the newspapers and clippings talked about how Tennessee was number 1 for the first time in over 30 years, 40 years, whatever, during that time?
Yes.
What impact did it have? It almost that chatter almost led them to choke against Arkansas the next week. I think thoroughly that 98 Arkansas game, the closest of it had everything to do with Tennessee getting swept up in the press clippings of being number 1 that week.
Okay. So I've changed my poll question or today's tough question. I've reset it, and I'm going to ask Caleb this because now it is being a number 1 seed for Tennessee means a lot. It's history. It's fine. or absolutely nothing. Caleb, I'll give you those three choices. And I'll remind you that our good friends at Sports Treasures have over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia. Daily update, Sports Treasures TN. That's Sports Treasures TN on Facebook. They're awesome. So, Caleb, let me pose that question to you. Being a number one seed for Tennessee means a lot. It's history. It's fine. Absolutely nothing.
It's fine. That's what I say. It's fine because it could actually dictate your matchups. So it's fine. But again, getting there doesn't mean any history. I totally disagree with you too about the college football playoff. I think Tennessee getting number one in the college football playoff was the most embarrassing thing ever because everybody saw Georgia absolutely humiliate them that week.
I think the pub was well worth it. I bet you, I totally disagree. I think the pub probably got Tennessee in the room of a prospect or two. I think it might have even secured them a commitment / signee or two. I think it's that big. Does it happen with Rick Barnes? I don't know, but it just takes one dude to be watching wherever he is that can change your program. Proof of that is Dalton Knecht. I don't know when he saw Tennessee for the first time, but he saw them and he showed up to be one of Tennessee's best basketball players of all time. And if you don't think that changes the program, Caleb, I've got concerns about you, man. I'm worried.
Wait. When did Tennessee ever get number one to get Dalton Knecht? They haven't been number one in basketball since 2019.
Well, no, but they've been good. They've been the pub.
Yes, but not. We're talking about number one. What number one versus being good is a different scenario here. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. I don't think it matters. I think the actual arbitrariness, is that a word? I don't know. The arbitrary difference between number one and number two, that makes as much buzz as that's as much of a difference as Maryland's football uniforms were under Randy Edsall that first game in 2011.
God, those were awful. Okay, but now Pseudo Sham says it's airtime and more special segments. Here's the difference between a 2 and a 1. If you're 2, they're probably not doing a feature on Dalton Knecht. If you're 1, they're probably doing a feature on Dalton Knecht at some point. CBS Sports says. Would you disagree with that?
Nobody watches cable outside of the games anymore, so nobody's going to watch those features.
I'm watching the feature if it's on Dalton Knecht. If I'm a basketball prospect, I'm watching. If I'm considering transferring to Tennessee, what are you talking about?
I saw them do features on a lot of players who weren't number one seeds in tournaments in the past.
Hey now.
All right. I'm confused by Caleb's take today, but that's fine. Check out my shirt. It's TriStar. I'll tell you more about TriStar here momentarily. Also coming up on the program, you can go to TriStarHatsCo.com, TriStarHatsCo.com for the latest in TriStar hats memorabilia. Go to the original hats, apparel, and more. TriStarHatsCo.com. Coming up on the program, I just don't like Nate Oats. He may be the most dislikable person in the SEC, like literally. And I wonder where he ranks for you, because now he's crying spilled milk that they would have won the SEC had it not been for a player getting hurt. You never say that, really, do you? But a spring safeties preview coming up. Buu Carter. We'll talk some Buu Carter. Also, coming up, we will say, should these players make a run at TV revenue? I mean, they don't get a piece of that, and that is the lion's share of the cash money going out there. We'll discuss that. And Peyton Manning hosting the Olympics. Is he the best ambassador in the history of the University of Tennessee? I'm going to tell you actually why not a little bit later in the program. But we're talking a little bit of football, a full safeties preview coming up next in 2 minutes. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This is a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Sand and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center. Ah.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
You didn't ask me what I did for my birthday, Caleb. I've turned 50.
What'd you do for your birthday, Dave? Sorry, I just hit my funny bone and it really hurt.
That's the worst. It's like biting your tongue. It's like, why does this still happen? I'm a fully grown adult. I went and rode the dragon. I went and drove the dragon by myself. It was a little alone time. Phones don't work. Radios barely work. You know what the dragon is, right?
That's that motorcycle place, right? The crookedest road in Tennessee? Or in North Carolina or in America?
Just rode in the United States of America. Yeah. And let's just say let's say everything held up and I didn't fly off a mountain. I'm still here, but I tried my best. It's always fun driving like that when, maybe this is too much, but when your hands are they have the tingly feeling because you've been driving so hard. It's fun.
You will never have me doing something like that. I'm sorry. I'm just so scared.
Would you ride shotgun with me? Because
No.
I'm considering being in a rally. You like dragons? Great reference to Starsky and Hutch.
Dragging these across your face. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Caitlin's got me. Dragging these.
But yeah, I need somebody to ride shotgun with me because you have to hold the microphone. So it's like Cannonball Run back in the days. You got to tell me where the cops are. They'll be talking to you. So there's a rally on Saturday I'm considering. Should I take part of that?
I'm not going to. I am not commenting the
Don't
same
do that
person.
message forward to me. Don't do that.
I was thinking the same thing, Caitlin. I was thinking the same thing. This is why. I mean, you did say it. Y'all did say it. You know, I can tell you, Dave. This is one of my proud things. Something I'm proud of. Maybe I shouldn't be. I have never in my life been on a roller coaster that goes upside down, and I never will.
What's the fastest you've ever been in a car?
In a car? I mean,
Yeah.
I probably may have hit 90, 95. That's probably it.
Okay. Well, just to let you know that the governor on my car may hit and click in at 145 miles an hour. I can't.
Well, I'm not going to ride with you.
Well, it slows down at 145. Okay. Mark is like insurance policy needed. No, I'm good for now. And I rarely do that. But yesterday was a lot of fun. It was a little alone time. And honestly, you guys are a big part of that if you're watching this show, because my goal was to build up a self-sufficient business where we could provide you with coverage of Tennessee athletics by the time I was 50. So I think we did that. Kaylin's gone 174 once. By the way, our buddy Banks and Jones, T. Scott Jones, he's done like 224 on a motorcycle in the flats out in Utah. I believe. Would you go 224? Bill Self takes care of my insurance. That's exactly right. All right. Let's talk some safeties. How about that? It'll be 4 downs, and it's brought to you by our good friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. 4 downs for 4 seasons. And I just want to remind you how local it is. It's all local, even the chemicals and everything. So you're supporting people that are practically your neighbors. Here we go.
4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Spas, the most comfortable spas made in the United States of America, right here in East Tennessee. Drop in for the all-new showroom in Athens. Dynasty Spas, perfect for all 4 seasons. 4 Downs, presented by Off the Hook Sports.
All right, let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's talk some Tennessee safeties as the Vols lose a lot, which is not good for a unit that already wasn't great. Coop, what should we do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thanks, Coop.
Coop here. First down.
How much of a challenge is it to replace Wesley Walker and Jalen McCullough? Because they are no longer Vols. They are gone. And I think you liked Walker, didn't you? And McCullough was probably... well, it was definitely one of their most experienced players, no doubt about it. So he's gone. He set the career record for starts in the Citrus Bowl with 51. I believe Wesley Walker, the other Vols starter at safety last season, transferred to Louisville. How big of a loss is this? And let me hear from you on the message board as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's a big loss. And just in the sense of these weren't the 2 most raw, talented guys you would say out there that like play the position, but they were very smart players. They were very experienced players. So you weren't going to get many mess ups with them. And it's the same thing I said about Trayvon Flowers the year before, which was that he wasn't going to leap off your screen, but he was a very effective, reliable player. Now, I believe down the stretch of last year, Wesley Walker got hurt, and for a minute, he did miss some time, and I do believe there was a noticeable difference out there because I think, wasn't it Jordan Thomas that got in there in place of Wesley Walker? And there were just a lot of issues. It just wasn't pretty to look at. So I think that, wasn't pretty to look at. I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was an issue. It was an issue because the experience they brought to the table was huge, particularly when Kamal Haddon went down and they had to shoulder a larger load because, as you know, a lot more pressure is put on safeties when cornerbacks are limited.
Very true. Very true. A lot more pressure is put on safeties in the run as well when you're not good on the interior. I think Tennessee will be very good on the interior. And I think Keenan Pili will allow them the ability to play back, when, especially on play action, when you're a little bit unsure whether your first step should be up or back. I think that they'll be a little bit more patient, be able to trust their eyes. I think they were filling in gaps last year, and we beat up on a lot. Elijah Herring. We beat up on him a lot, but he was not a middle linebacker. So I think they had to fill in gaps. So I think that Keenan Pili may be one of the most important factors in the safeties, as odd as that sounds. All right, which down, Coop?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Second down is a key down. Andre Turrentine, isn't it about time?
Yes. He was a highly touted transfer out of Ohio State that Tennessee wanted. He's from Nashville. It's time for him to deliver. Will he?
I thought he would walk in and start, to be real honest with you, from day one last year.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, I'm just going to say it, guys. Nobody fulfills my stereotype more than Andre Turrentine. And y'all know where I'm going with this, and I haven't brought it up in a while, but it is true. Innsworth High kids can't play. There, said it. Innsworth High kids in Nashville are massively overrated. They just are. I mean, Andre Turrentine is the perfect example of that. And y'all come at me in a different way. Innsworth High kids it's because of the population in Nashville, the presence of the online recruiting sites in Nashville. They massively overrate Nashville talent, and they massively overrate Innsworth High and Lipscomb Academy kids.
I'm now rooting for Turrentine to be the most valuable Vol this season, just because you hate Innsworth and schools in the mid-state area. I don't get it.
No. I actually think Murfreesboro kids are very underrated. Typically, I think Murfreesboro kids are very underrated. I think Chattanooga kids are very underrated. I think specific schools in Nashville and the Nashville area are underrated. Ainsworth and Lipscomb are overrated.
Jacoby Thomas, the transfer from Middle Tennessee to Tennessee. This is a big step up for Jacoby Thomas. Exactly. That's a big jump, but he's already drawn some rave reviews for his work ethic and willingness to compete. This is the type of guy I like. And as somebody that I was talking to in Tennessee's program said, what's the point of taking a bunch of guys that can't play elsewhere at big schools like we are, is what this guy said to me within the program. And I tend to agree with him. I think you want to take the guy that got to MTSU and is way better than that and stands out and doesn't just flash, but is like a dominant player. And I'm going to assume that Thomas is that for them to take him. But I like this type of player that moves up, to use a basketball analogy, Dalton Connect. I like that is proven at the college level, but he's not so good that you have to pay Dante Thornton money for it.
Yes, no, that's very true. And he comes out of actually very, very small town in Tennessee. Jacoby Thomas comes out of Tullahoma, Tennessee, which is kind of in southern Middle Tennessee near Chattanooga, interestingly enough. He seems like one of those guys that I think was massively overlooked because of the small area he came from. And I think he was able to cut his teeth at MTSU. He leaped off the screen. He's very experienced. I think Jacoby Thomas is a guy you could see step in immediately and fill the void left by Wesley Walker. And quite honestly, you brought it up. Jacoby Thomas, Andre Turntine, this is where they couldn't be more different, even though they're both in-state guys. Andre Turntine came from Ohio State to Tennessee. Jacoby Thomas went from MTSU to Tennessee. One went because he was great and he's trying to test his waters. One went because he couldn't play it where he was at.
Okay, you got two guys in Christian Charles and John Slaughter who have yet to.
Those really are more cornerbacks, defensive backs.
Yeah, I think so too. I think I've been told they'll get a look. I think everybody's getting a look everywhere in the spring. The other guy that I wanted to be sure and mention, I just want to get all the names out there because guys could shift around. Freshman Idris Farouk played at Powerhouse St. Francis Academy in Baltimore and played in the U.S. Army All-American game. He supposedly needs to add some weight, but he was there for winter workouts, so that should help. So Coop, what down?
There's two more guys.
Lay them on me. Give me the two more guys.
Two key ones too. Don't forget them. Jordan Thomas. He started a good bit at safety last year for Tennessee, and he's back in. He was a freshman, and then the son of Rodney Harrison, Christian Harrison, is still on the roster, and he's a very experienced player. Christian Harrison, think guys. Balen Buchanan, Nigel Warrior, probably a guy who peaks early, who's very experienced and very smart, but has a ceiling. Michael Munoz, per se, in the secondary.
All of those guys you just mentioned are former players' sons, successful players' sons. Why?
Because they are all players who ended up being good at the college level, but they all had ceilings, so they were good early and never peaked. And
was that just
Michael Munoz?
That all four of the guys were sons of good players, or were you trying to?
No. I actually think that's the common denominator because they're sons of good players. They're experienced and they know ball better than most when they arrive on college. Kind of overrates them in the recruiting process because there's
no doubt about that because it looks better to say son of NFL star and 4-star prospect than it does son of NFL star and 3-star prospect. Not that recruiting rankings would ever be manipulated, Caleb.
I wasn't even going that far. No, I actually think they play well enough at the high school level because they're so polished as players sons. Very similar to how this is why I think Texas recruits are overrated, Dave, because I think that Texas recruits are so well coached that their ceiling, they're much closer to their ceiling when they arrive in college than other players are. And I think the same is true with sons of former athletes. And again, that's why I said like the key one was Michael Munoz, who was a good offensive lineman. I'm taking nothing away from him, but he wasn't that much better as a senior than he was as a freshman, was he?
No. I agree with you in that I think a lot of those guys are also coached up at a young level. They're more polished. They look better. But the odds of even if you have two incredibly gifted athletes that have a son or daughter, the odds of passing along those genes are still pretty slim. So
unless you're the Mannings.
Well, yeah, but that's a different position because that's a position that's more of a craft than you can be crafty all day long at left tackle. And if you're 6'1", 220 pounds, it ain't going to work out for you. As long as you're big enough, I think the Manning family can turn you into a quarterback. So
You mean like how Bronny James, they're trying to turn him into a lottery pick when he's just not LeBron because there's no way he can get LeBron's size? Sorry.
Yes. The one that we haven't mentioned, it's like a ghost.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
Who will be the standout of spring practice? And this name hasn't been mentioned. 4 downs brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. It's like he's like a ghost. What would a ghost say? 50 seconds. Having the best spas made right here in the United States of America in your backyard. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Their showroom is open in Athens, right off the interstate. You can stop by and check out the best hot tubs and spas in the market. And then delivery, yes, they can do that to Knoxville or Chattanooga. They've got complete support, spa cover, and chemicals to keep your spa bubbling at its best. They also have pool chemicals as well. Dynasty Pools and Spas, amazing discounts for first responders, military, and even some blemish models that can save you a ton, and no one will ever notice. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Go to dynastypoolsandspas.com or stop by that showroom in Athens. dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas. The spring start safety is going to be Buu because he's going to be asked about, he's going to be talked about whether or not he's a star actually on the field. We're going to have to depend on coaches' reviews of him. So we're not going to know for sure. I imagine as I've seen Josh Heupel open more of practice up as he's gone along, we'll get to see more than we've seen before. But it'll be Buu because everybody's going to ask a million questions about Buu, and he'll get the most pub. He even has a cool name. I was told that the coaches told him that he'll get every chance to start at strong safety as a freshman. And I was also told by someone else not close to Buu, but it's seen him play, and I really respect his judgment on talent, that he's got the talent. Does he have the coachability? We're going to see, but he's got the talent. Hint, hint. See what I'm getting at?
Oh, I totally see what you're getting at. And you're totally right. And there will be some other players at safety who will resent it, and they'll go, boo-hoo. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Boo.
But yes, you're right. You're right. It's gonna be Buu Carter, guys. We're seeing if Buu Carter doesn't deliver and emerge as a star prospect in the fall, then every concern we have about Josh Heupel's talent evaluation gets dialed up to 100 because the way the coaches have pushed Buu Carter, it's as if they think he's going to be stepping into a role the way Eric Berry did as a freshman in 2007.
Yeah, to me, it's Nico, and then there's a second tier of guys that it was obvious they really, really, really wanted, and Boo's that second tier. So it's Nico, and then he was on that second tier, right?
Yes, I totally agree. He was on that second tier. He was absolutely on that second tier. They absolutely wanted him. And guys, Heupel's missed on a lot of guys. I'm sorry, but his talent evaluation is worthy of scrutiny, given how he's
worthy of scrutiny. If he falls, will he get a boo-boo? Travis said. That's way better than yours. Yours is absolutely horrendous. Portions of the program.
Whatever.
It was awful. Yours is awful. Want to thank our friends Ray Varner Ford. They bring you Jimmy Himes each and every Wednesday. Ray Varner Ford, and Clinton Ray's just a great guy, and he's got great prices and better selection.
F-150 4x4 Super Cab, $44,992. A 2023 Ford Escape all-wheel drive, $30,952. 2023 F-150 4x4 Super Crew XLT, $54,900. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
All right, so Caleb asked me this morning, why do the players not get any of the revenue from television? So they don't. And explain why, if you can, Caleb.
Well, I mean, technically, players still can't get paid by revenue brought in from the college, they get paid in NIL, which is endorsements. And so the revenue paid from the university goes to the schools. And well, the TV revenue goes to the conferences divvy it up evenly among the schools. That's why Vanderbilt gets the same amount of money as Alabama from the SEC, which is hilariously laughable, but that's what they do. Yesterday we talked about the Nick Saban NIL thing, and I saw a bunch of annoying people online. And Dave, I mean very annoying people. And you see this when it comes to political debates all the time. Do you ever see people take a stand and it's just a virtue signal, but they don't actually they take this grand stand on something, but they don't actually address like the nuances of how to fix a problem. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And yeah, and they do that in Congress all the time. Both sides do that in Congress, and it's so annoying. This is how it should be. Well, this is how it should be. Well, this is how it is, and now we got to figure out how we can address how it is. Everybody yesterday went at Nick Saban for Nick Saban made $93 million coaching in his career. Why is he mad about NIL? I'm like, guys, Nick Saban is not mad about NIL. What he's concerned about is that the whole sport of college football will be sucked dry with the few players who have market value being the only ones in the sport, and everybody else is left out to die. Not die like literally, but figuratively. And he's saying, how do we address that problem? Nick Saban, actually, what went under the radar the other day is he actually suggested something that gets players paid even more. He suggested TV revenue being distributed in a way to go to the players. And
I want to make sure that everybody understands the TV revenue goes directly to the school. Okay.
It goes to the conference, who distributes it evenly to the schools.
Right. So it goes directly to the school. So there are situations in which the school and Spire Sports could be potentially at odds because they're asking the same advertiser if they can get some cash. One's to support players, one's to build more facilities. In this particular situation, the players have not expressed any voice whatsoever in the TV money, but that's a whole lot of money that we have never discussed. I find it interesting that you brought that up and that Nick Saban brought that up. That would have been a really easy way for the NCAA to handle all of this and not have the NIL issue, is just to say a revenue sharing on TV money, make it 30%, 20%, 10%, negotiate however you want to do it. And you wouldn't have this free for all craziness that's going on now. Mark Emmert has to be sitting somewhere. Hashtag Mark Emmert. You should watch this. You could have saved your reputation as the president of the NCAA with the TV money alone. You could have made everybody happy. Nico would have never known that he could get $2 million a year. He would have been happy getting a couple of $100,000 off the TV money. And you could even stagger it as a start. You get more. You could do all kinds of things to make it more transparent. So I'm surprised that the players haven't seen that the TV money is something that they should go after. Because right now they're not technically getting any cash money from the school. They're getting it from advertisers. Go get the TV money. I'm rooting for you. What say you on the message board, and what say you, Caleb?
Dave, you're right. And I'm starting to think, I have a theory on why the NCAA was so behind the curve on this. I think they purposely wanted to be sabotaged. They purposely wanted to say, this is what you want and this is what you got. And then they want Congress to step in and pass some sort of law that just allows them to rule with an iron fist again, unfairly. And so they're trying, I think they're, because you're right, the TV revenue is just such, first of all, we talked about this the other day, and we talked about it with Jimmy. College sports inherently are socialist because the football team and basketball team bring in the revenue, and that subsidizes the rest of the sports and the academics too, right? Mm-hmm. So, but most of that money that subsidizes those areas, they come from directly ticket sales, don't they? Not necessarily TV revenue.
That goes to where? Help me with that again.
But most of the money that subsidizes the other sports and the other academics comes from ticket sales. I feel like more than anything else.
I think the money goes into one big pile. But obviously you're going to realize where your bread's buttered, and you're going to feed the golden goose. So I would spend more money on football, but I don't know that it's directly tied.
What I mean is like the money so the worry of TV revenue going to players is that they wouldn't have the money to then subsidize other sports or academic programs because it's going to
Oh,
the
so
players.
you're finding a way to better fence this in. This is what you're actually bringing to the university. Is that what you're doing with?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. No, I'm
Yes.
cool with that. I'm cool with that. But I'm cool.
My question to you is
Go ahead.
my question to you is this. You're Tennessee. X amount of money comes from TV revenue, the SEC, right?
Mhm.
You take that money and you divvy it up however you want. Are you concerned that if some of that money ends up going to the players, that's going to take away the money that you use to subsidize other sports and academic programs at the school that you
I
care
think
about?
if you're the university, you do not want this to happen, no matter what, because no matter what, I don't care if you want to, they recently hired a new PR director. Tom Satkowiak left as the sports information director because they've hired this PR guy. Listen, if that's what you want to spend your money on, spend your money on that. But I'm not going to throw my money at something that's not generating revenue. I think it should be very capitalist. It should be the opposite of socialist. Nico brings more money to the sport than any softball player, than any crew member. And I'm not just picking women's sports. Please know that. Any track person in men's. I mean, it's just not even close. So to me, what you bring to the table, Caleb.
No, I'm not talking about what I'm not talking about what the athletes themselves are getting paid. I'm talking about keeping the sport afloat. Softball only exists because football pays for it to exist. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, but you could say the same thing for women's basketball.
And women's basketball. Fine. I don't care. Women's basketball, solve all of them. They only exist because football pays for them to exist. Are you saying let those sports go under? Just get rid of them?
I'm saying they need to find a better way of doing business or go under.
But what if they can't? Again, this is the concept of college academics. Most
Life's
academic
tough, buddy.
programs.
Life's
Most
tough.
college programs don't. Yeah, but you're going to take away scholarships for so many athletes that college was their ticket out, who don't have market value as players, but they get a scholarship that's a good thing for their future.
Wait, let me be clear. I'm not taking any scholarships away, but I'm not paying those players out of the TV money, be it.
I'm not talking about paying the players. I'm talking about having the sport exist. If the football program doesn't pay for the sport goes under.
Let's say this, because we do budgets each and every month at our house. So if the bottom line is I've got to spend $100 to be in business, I'm going to make sure I spend that $100. So to me, that's having the crew team, that's having the track team. I don't really care as much how great they are. You want them to be good, because if you're a Tennessee fan across the board, but I am going to, that's my baseline. Outside of that, if I bring in money from TV deals or whatever, I'm giving it to football players first.
Okay, so right now where's that money going at the moment?
I think I was over on campus. I'm over on campus a lot now that I live in Knoxville. It seems to be to build every single building they can possibly dream up. That's what it seems like.
So you think, okay, so you're saying, so this is the question, and this is and I'm with you on the TV revenue sharing, but we have to be very clear about this because we have to really hammer it down, almost as accountants, which we are not, me nor Dave. But if revenue goes to the football players from TV, it's going to have to come out of something else that it's going to right now. The question is, what will it come out of? So
stop building buildings all the time. If everybody across the board has to stop building, I mean, we're assuming this is not just Tennessee, this is everybody. So if the players get some of that money, well, then maybe they don't get their own barber shop.
So what you're saying is, at the very least, the other sports programs aren't going to be in danger that are being kept afloat by this.
Right. That is my bottom line budget that I will not dip into.
Okay,
but anything
fair
else,
enough.
Okay, but here's where it gets goofy. Okay, if you go through an Alabama type run, you're unbeatable under my plan, because I'm giving more money to football because they're bringing more money in, okay, with the TV money. And I'm giving more and more because the donations are good in other places. So this players union came up and they get 10% of the TV money. I'm giving that to them. I'm giving that to them, and it gets, and boom, and I'm going to give them more and more and more. So under my plan, if you build a dynasty, it's never going to be undone unless the coach leaves.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. It's you're probably right, but I would think that's what's going to be hit. See, this is where I'm going long term, Dave. This is crazy. I think the people that would be hit the most would be administrators, which let's just be honest. I feel like sometimes too many administrators are hired at schools. Is that fair to say?
Nah.
So I think administrators.
They had so many associate athletic directors that 3 looked exactly the same. I'm not joking, and I could not tell which one was which. I had it. It was like, hey, buddy. Hey,
I believe that.
Hey, scout. You had to call them everything else because I wasn't sure if that was Ron, Bob, or Carl because they were 3 associate athletic directors that looked the exact same.
Here's the pot it should really come out of. It should come out of the because part of that TV revenue money goes right into the pockets of conference administrators. It should come out of their pockets for the players. Like
Travis says Caleb was right. It would destroy lacrosse, rowing, fishing, and bowling teams, possibly as big as women's basketball.
Yeah, so my argument is this. The revenue sharing goes to the players, and you find a way to make sure that it comes straight out of the pockets of the conference administrators who just rake in way too much money as it is, right?
Yep, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I can roll with you completely on that.
Like, what do the conference administrators do?
A lot of times, nothing. Now, it was at its worst when they had 2 different athletic departments.
Oh, I was not even bringing the athletic administrators. I was bringing the conference administrators. Like, beyond, like I'm talking about having Greg Sankey have a hit with his salary, having the assistant conference administrators have hits with their salaries. Make it come out of
we have a big fan in the conference office, so I want to say they do a great job and they're very efficient.
Did not know.
In case they're watching. City heating and air conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. They like to listen. There's one person that likes to listen in that office. 50 years in East Tennessee. I'm not dismissing
the job they all do.
Yes, this person in particular, if you're listening, does a fantastic job. 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. Don't trust a fly-by-night HVAC company to tell you that you need a new unit that costs you thousands or more. cityheatandair.com. cityheatandair.com. And there's one guy that I just particularly don't like, and I can't really completely explain why, but he has ties to the University of Alabama, so I don't think I'm going to be by myself on that. I'll get to that here in just a second, but first, what the H?
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Peyton Manning's going to be in the Olympics, everybody. Decathlete, long jump, swimming, pole vault. No. Peyton's going to open the whole thing. And I want a Peyton cast on some of the Olympics. That's what I'm hoping for. And swimming, you could have Michael Phelps. You could do all sorts of things. But what do you make of Peyton Manning being at the opening ceremony of the Olympics and helping open it with Mike Tirico and somebody else?
I think it's great. I always felt Peyton Manning was meant for, it's funny, the Michael Strahans, the Shannon Sharps, all these former NFL players on camera. No one was more meant for that than Peyton Manning, honestly. He is the most entertaining. He's the funniest of all of them, quite honestly. And, the funny part is Peyton Manning does it. I've never seen somebody be so skilled on camera, Dave, while also being diplomatic. As you know, Peyton Manning's the most annoyingly diplomatic person on camera, is he not? Like,
yes, I've been told that when it came to his Saturday Night Live monologue and all that sort of thing, that it was heavily critiqued to make sure he didn't come off looking bad. He cares very much about his image.
Yes. So he's not like, it's funny because he's got like that Shannon Sharp personality where Shannon Sharp doesn't care how he looks. He's just going to go at athletes that he thinks are stupid, honestly. And Peyton Manning's never going to do that. But Peyton Manning is so entertaining with his mannerisms, it still kind of works. And so I think this is smart. I think Peyton Manning would be great covering the Olympics, but I will say this. We just talked about the NCAA. You want to talk about a racket that steals money? How about the Olympics? I mean, those athletes don't get paid anything.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, they get paid by sponsorship now. They get a little bit of cash. They get paid the same way that the football players we talk about every day do. Better ambassador for the University of Tennessee, is it Peyton Manning or is it Candace Parker, who we see a lot of this time of year because she does the TNT work?
Well, I know who's hotter, but
it's not Rocky Dennis. All right. That was his nickname. For those that don't know, that was Peyton Manning's nickname among his teammates, Rocky Dennis. And you have to look that up to know it, because I'm not going to say it, to see what movie that was in. But Cher was in it. So Cher.
It's still Peyton Manning. It's still Peyton Manning. I love Candace Parker. I love Candace Parker.
No, it's not.
I love her, but Peyton Manning
not.
is it's still Peyton Manning.
No, it's not. And here's why. Because Tennessee doesn't need any help in football. They're doing just fine. They're on the rise. Tennessee needs help in women's basketball. Candace Parker is definitely the better ambassador for Tennessee right now. Go ahead and vote on our YouTube page. We would love to hear what you think, and tell me why in the message board as well. And I'll get right to that. I'll remind you that we're represented by Banks and Jones. And I'll remind you that crazy Caleb thinking it's Peyton instead of Candace is very crazy. Even Peyton Manning, what would you say about that when I compare you and Candace Parker?
You're like, that is total bullshit.
Yes. The show represented by Banks and Jones. Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. So far in the message board, I'm all by myself. Peyton Manning, 88%. Candace Parker, 12%. How much of that do you think our current voting is because the amount of publicity? Because I can't argue, no matter what I do, that Parker gets as much publicity as Manning, because we're talking about a little bit of work on the men's tournament. We're talking about women's basketball versus football. That's not the same. So he's not going to have the same, she's not going to have the same amount of exposure. But as far as an ambassador, I think she is very needed by the Lady Vols. And I think there might be a young lady who says, I really like that Candace Parker, she's actually doing men's games. And I'm going to look her up. I wonder where she went to Tennessee. And then, did you know about that Pat Summitt person? Candace Parker is the better ambassador for Tennessee right now. Not even close, Caleb. Sorry.
Oh, okay, first of all, Peyton Manning himself can be an ambassador for women's basketball because he was close with Pat Summitt. So, if he wanted to, if Tennessee needed him to be an ambassador for women's basketball, it was like, we need you for this. You don't think he would do it? Also, Candace Parker. Now, yes, Candace Parker is the most attractive person to do this, and she's the best. She's the most talented at commentating too, but she's such a skilled commentator. But it ain't like Tennessee doesn't have a lot of other great women's basketball ambassadors. Tamika Catchings was a WNBA MVP. Shamika Holtzclaw Shamika Holtzclaw is a great story for personal struggles, because I'm sure you know about her issues that she's dealt with and how she's talked about it publicly. I think that's I
don't actually. So share that with me, or somebody else might not.
She struggled with severe depression. I'm sorry?
Candace Parker did?
No. Shamika Holtzclaw did.
Oh, Shamika Holtzclaw. Okay. No, I did not do that.
Yeah, she struggled with severe depression. I think it kind of stalled her WNBA career, because she probably could have been the best WNBA player of all time. And she was in the WNBA for a while, but she just, and she's a very public, vocal speaker for that. So there's a lot of things that those people do that really help the program. I agree, Candace is probably the best overall of it, because one, a sidetrack, just a real quick question, Dave. who's the greater Tennessee Lady Vols legend, Candace Parker or Shamika Holtzclaw? Holtzclaw did win 3 titles, but I think Candace Parker was better because she had less help, right?
Yeah, Parker was better. I don't think there's any question about that. And Parker, listen, here's the other thing about Parker is I've heard her on PTI, pardon the interruption. I've heard her, I believe, on the Dan Patrick Show. She does all these different shows to promote her work on TNT and thereby promote herself. And I'm sure she works in the University of Tennessee every time. Peyton Manning is usually only a part of things in which he has control over. So to me, Peyton Manning feels insulated and not approachable if I'm a sports fan. Candace Parker feels like somebody that you could see and you could say, hey, how are you? Now, I will say in person, she is stunningly gorgeous to the point that you can get tongue-tied. I won't go ahead and tell you that firsthand. And I usually don't get tongue-tied around pretty women. But if you get past that, I mean, she's easier to talk to. She's more accessible and relatable, as somebody on the message board put, than Peyton Manning, right?
Yeah, she is. There's another layer to this, though, too. Beyond just what they played, which makes Peyton Manning more valuable. Even within their respective sports, I'm just going to say this about Candace Parker. Candace Parker feels she really developed something about herself playing for Pat Summitt, right? She thinks the Lady Vols made her who she is. And she has a point on that. Do you think Peyton Manning is out there saying, thank God I played for Philip Fulmer. He made me who I am today. I'm sorry. I don't want to throw a shot at Philip Fulmer, but do you really think Peyton Manning is thinking that in his head?
I think he's thinking that about David Cutcliffe, and Philip Fulmer's the guy that hired him.
Okay, so he may be thinking about that about Cutcliffe, and he does show respect to Cutcliffe. He shows more respect to Cutcliffe than he's ever shown to Fulmer. I've noticed that about Peyton through his career.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Who would you show more respect to?
I mean, remember when he had to relearn how to throw and he asked Cutcliffe to come coach him and not Fulmer anywhere around?
Yeah.
And
But
yeah. But I think Cutcliffe coached Peyton Manning up the passer, but Peyton Manning and his image and how to carry himself and everything, I think Peyton Manning probably thought that more from his family life and things like that. Not that I think Candace Parker's family life was fine, but she attributes her whole everything about who she is to Pat Summitt. She really attributes it to Pat. So I think that's why she's more grateful to be a Vol than Peyton Manning is. I think Peyton Manning is somebody who probably is yeah, I'm grateful I chose Tennessee, but I could have made this work if I went to Ole Miss or Florida or wherever I went. And I think Candace Parker's in her mind, she probably is I needed Pat Summitt. I needed Tennessee.
Boy, I think the Mannings needed Cutcliffe, and we're just going to see this differently.
I'm not saying whether or not they did. I'm saying what's in their minds.
Okay, well, I think
that not have been an NFL player without Cutcliffe, because Cutcliffe taught him how to be mobile with flat feet.
I think Peyton and Phillip are pretty tight. And what if Phillip's going to be our Friday guest this fall? Are you going to be nicer to him?
Will he ever be your Friday guest, Dave?
I'm always working. Have I surprised you with some things before?
You have.
You'll be surprised by the selection that you have there at Dynasty Pools and Spas in Athens. Their showroom is fantastic. The best hot tubs and spas on the market, and they can deliver. And then you've got it all. You've got the cover. You've got the cover hoist thing that works. You got the steps, and you've got everything. You got chemicals to take care of you for 3 months, and they deliver. And they're absolutely fantastic. And they deliver to Knoxville and Chattanooga. So Dynasty Pools and Spas, you can go to the showroom, pick yours out. You can get a blemish model, save thousands. That's Dynasty Pools and Spas. This day in Tennessee sports history, do you want to give us a tease, Caleb, on what it is today? Is it hoops related, or where are we going?
It's once again hoops related. It is once again hoops related. So yeah,
I'm excited. Those on the video platform, yes, I just about knocked my entire computer off of my desk. 2 minutes with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports, and this day in Tennessee sports history, one dude that I just really don't like, and I can't get over it. I can't completely explain why. 2 minutes Off the Hook Sports.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn at cctis.com.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air. Dare to compare.
We believe every day is a good day to be thirsty. With free samples on draft and lots of flavors to choose from, Tennessee Cider Company prepares a hard cider that's easy to enjoy. Some say it's the signature cider of the South. Others say it's the cure to your craving. They all say you'll savor every sip. The area of Gatlinburg has so much to offer, and so does Tennessee Cider Company. Add us to your list for shopping and fun experiences. You'll be glad you made the trip. Find our cidery in the Mountain Mall on the Gatlinburg Parkway. Sip smart. Sip the good stuff. Sip Tennessee Cider Company. Thirsty yet? Doors open at 10 a.m.
Welcome back. I want to remind you that you can take part of Hooker's Corner, and you can be a John with increased recruiting information, and all you have to do is join our Patreon group. We love that. You can be a John. Hooker's Corner. The link is right down there, just $9.98. Tomorrow we'll have a weekly drawing for our prizes, and then our grand prize drawing, which you have to be a paid member to win, will be a Brew McCoy autographed midi helmet ready to just buy instead. You can celebrate Tennessee's revolutionary lawsuit against the NCAA with the exclusive T-shirt, relive the greatest season in Tennessee football history with the Celebrate 98 book, the untold stories behind Tennessee's 1998 national championship. Now, the shirts are going to print the state of Tennessee versus the NCAA. So if you won one of those, no, I haven't forgotten about you. We're printing them in one big batch, so they will be your way very shortly. The one guy I can't stand in the SEC has Alabama ties, and I'm going to get to that right now.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Make everybody a deal. Anybody that signs up to be a John on the recurring will get a State of Tennessee versus the NCAA T-shirt. Since those go to print tomorrow, again, it's going to be a couple of weeks, but I will go ahead and do that. And I can't completely explain it, but I just don't like Nate Oats. Caleb, what's the latest from Nate Oats, who allows a football team, or a basketball team to carry on with a serious gun charge, somewhat involved with the murder last year to some extent, and now is claiming that Alabama would have won it all had it not been for an injured player. Tell me about the latest in Nate Oats, because I'm not a fan.
Nate Oats was talking about Alabama's loss to Tennessee. And he said it was actually about a rematch with the Vols. And he said, we'll see if we can't get a rematch with Tennessee for a third time. That'd be great. And he talked about Latrell Wrightsell missing the Tennessee game in Tuscaloosa. And he said, quote, we needed him badly. And then he said he feels like they would have won the SEC regular season title had they had Latrell Wrightsell all season. Just for context, Latrell Wrightsell missed 4 games and then played 8 minutes of another one. They were 2-2 in the 4 games he missed, and 2-3 if you count that other game where he only played 8 minutes. Now, what Nate Oats just kind of conveniently left out, which was really funny to me, was that I didn't see him hesitating to hang an SEC regular season title banner last year when Tennessee lost to Zakai Ziegler for the season.
I don't remember him doing that, did he?
No, I don't think he did that. I don't think he did that at all. I could be wrong on that. You guys try to correct me, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that he was perfectly happy to raise his SEC title banner when Zakai Ziegler went down for the season. But when Alabama players get hurt, it's a big deal. And when other players that get hurt, that helps Alabama for NATO, it's not a big deal. He probably really cares about illegal use of firearms too. I think he rules with an iron fist on that.
So, new poll question, because I want to ask you, Caleb, do you believe that Nate Oats may be more unlikable than John Calipari? It would have been Calipari, say he's coming off a national title, the one he won, because you hate a winner more, right? The guy that beats you. If the personalities are equal, you dislike the guy that's beating you more. But right now, I posted that up. It's 71% Nate Oats, just 29% John Calipari. Also, Nate Oats reminds me of Doug Gottlieb, who stole from his teammates when he was in college. And if there's one thing you don't do that I will never forgive someone for, it's stealing from a teammates in a locker room situation. So he looks like Doug Gottlieb as well, which drives me crazy.
What about stealing laptops from sorority houses? Can that work?
Oh, did Doug Gottlieb or Nate Oats do that?
No. Cam Newton did that. I'm joking about Cam Newton.
I was like, where are you going with that? So is he more unlikable than John Calipari at Kentucky? John Calipari is pretty slimy and not likable for the most part, right?
I'm going to have to be really careful of this because so many of my friends grew up in Memphis and are Tiger fans, and my mother graduated from there. And Dave, I don't think you want to know what people in Memphis feel about John Calipari after the way he left them in 2009.
They should hate him.
The hate is because it wasn't just that he left; it's that he took the entire recruiting class with him from that year to Kentucky.
You'd be incredibly stupid not to have made that.
Yes,
move.
you would. I agree. You go to Kentucky. It's Nate Oats. John Calipari to me is somebody who has taken advantage of the rules that exist today to win. And honestly, he doesn't. I think John Calipari is not a great coach. I'm just going to say it. And I used to, and I say that not just because of the one and dones and all of that. People always bring that up in the talent, but in game situations, I've seen him fail to close out too many games with big leads with 2 minutes left. And when things get really close in the final 3 minutes and it becomes an interior game, John Calipari doesn't know what to do. And he's never changed on that. I just think he's an overrated coach.
I agree. And he's tied in with Nike, and that's how he's getting these guys. So that's cool that it's worked for him. I'm glad it got him one championship, but he didn't have the tie with Nike. It wouldn't have gotten him a championship. He would have never had a championship. Nate Oats is a better coach, though, right? Than John Calipari.
Yeah, Nate Oats is a better coach. Nate Oats is just more unlikable. I agree. Nate Oats bothers me. Where
does he rank in most unlikable guys in the SEC right now? Let me recheck that poll question. Nate Oats with 80% of the vote. John Calipari with just 20% of the vote.
I mean, Bruce Pearl's pretty unlikable if he's not your coach.
Oh, I love me some Bruce. All right, so on the message board, who's more unlikable than Nate Oats, if anybody?
What are some other ones? Oh, wait, are we just doing basketball?
You can go across the board.
Because, I mean, do we need to throw in Eli Drinkwitz and do we need to throw in Shane Beaver?
Josh.
He's got Lou Holtz has a podcast out now. He said we're gonna. He literally tweeted he's trying to save America with this podcast.
There was a point in that short that I wasn't really sure that if I was doing a impression of Eli Drinkwitz or Lou Holtz, when one started, when one didn't. Will Wade gets a vote. Well, he's not in
Will Wade
the SEC
is no longer
anymore.
there, though.
Yeah, he's not in the SEC anymore. But that's an interesting vote out of left field. So my most unlikable would be Nate Oats, and it's Eli Drinkwitz. They're tied for number one in mine. So what would be your top three? And I can probably come up with a third here in just a little bit.
Okay, my top 3 unlikable. Number 1 is Eli Drinkwitz. It's easily Eli Drinkwitz. I mean, he is the most annoying. He's a liar. Though we stand on business, but I didn't. My players wanted me to say that. No, then shut up. Okay, I hate it when someone does something like that.
So let's do this. Let's do most unlikable in both football and basketball.
Okay,
specifically.
I'm already wrong. Eli Drinkwitz is number 2. Pastor Hugh is number 1. Pastor Hugh is absolutely number 1. He's the worst human being to ever coach in sports.
Okay, for a number of reasons, I can't argue with that.
Yes, he's a horrifically evil, terrible human being, and Joe Paterno is right there with him too. And I'm not gonna respect the dead. Okay, Joe Paterno was a horrible person too. But
we stick in the SEC. Is there anybody else that even comes into consideration? Because a lot of the guys that people. What about Shane Beamer? Would he be? Oh, there you go. Kalen with Shane
Beamer's annoying. Shane Beamer and Eli Drinkwitz are annoying. Hugh Freeze is a snake and a liar and a terrible person, and may or may not have enjoyed looking at underage girls take their shirts off. Okay, so
yeah, but I will say this: Beamer and the whole trying to be young sort of thing and doing the whole dancing around and social media, that to me was pretty unlikable. And
it's unlikable in it, but I agree. But I don't like him. But he's don't you like?
There's a difference between the word unlikable and despicable. How about that?
Yes. How about that? Yeah, Shane Beamer I agree with Kalen. Shane Beamer's unlikable. I don't think he's a despicable human being, though. I think he's just a laughably kind of lame, pathetic goofball, like you would say. You know what I mean? And I don't know if you can say the word lame anymore. I'm sorry. But I
don't think you said anything wrong. I don't have a problem with that. It is time for this day in Tennessee sports history. But the most unlikable across the board, would we both agree, is, or if you had to pick one of the football guys or one of the basketball guys. So my 2 most unlikable are going to be definitely Eli and Nate Oats.
It's Hugh Freeze and Nate Oats. Hugh Freeze and Nate Oats.
So I'm assuming you're taking Freeze over Oats because he's kind of a bad dude.
I just also hate the people who throw scripture in your face and they're usually covering for something. I hate those people. They drive me crazy. You're obviously...
As Christians, we are told to witness. But that's a whole different discussion. I'm not doing that.
Story.
I'm not doing that.
I hate the ones that throw scripture in your face because they want you to know that they're good people.
No. There's some people to do that, but I think you can.
And Hugh Freeze is at the top of the list of people who do that.
That is very true, and he had that reputation among SEC coaches. They called him Pastor Hugh for years before I'd heard about that. It's time for this day in Tennessee sports history, and then we're going to take a look at what needs to happen tonight, who you need to watch as the Vols await their first opponent in the NCAA tournament. First, this day in Tennessee sports history is brought to you by our good friend at Ray Varner Ford.
Welcome to Ray Varner Ford in Clinton, where every turn meets new possibilities and every mile celebrates the cutting-edge innovation within our Ford lineup. Elevate your journey in this new 2023 F-150 4x4 Super Cab, $44,992. A 2023 Ford Escape all-wheel drive, $30,952. 2023 F-150 4x4 Super Crew XLT, $54,900. Local you trust, innovation you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
This day in Tennessee sports history, Caleb?
Yeah, so 16 years ago today in the SEC tournament, and I believe the final game that happened before a tornado wrecked through the area and forced everybody outside of the Georgia Dome and into Georgia Tech's basketball arena down the road. Tennessee, Chris Lofton hit a 3 to beat South Carolina. And Tennessee won 89-87 to advance to Saturday in the SEC tournament for the first time in 17 years at that point. That's how bad Tennessee's history has been in the SEC tournament. They went 17 years without even making the SEC tournament semifinals.
A quick reminder, Georgia won 3 games in a day, and Caleb says, Rick Barnes is too hard on his players. I tried to do that, Caleb.
By the way, Dennis Felton is a Rick Barnes protege, the Georgia coach.
Yeah, he is. they played 3 games in a day, and you say that they practice too hard and they play too hard. Just saying that. Apex Apparel Group Design. Look at this shirt. They made this for me. It's the TriStar Hats shirt that I love, and you can see that hat right up there. TriStar Hats Co. is fantastic. Apex Apparel can take care of all your apparel needs for your business, giveaways or uniforms needed for your business, spirit wear for school or group needed. Apex Apparel, just go to the website, order apexapparel.com, or call Tyler for 15% off. That's 15% off, 865-919-3001, 865-919-3001. So Mississippi State, LSU, Tennessee will face the winner. A couple of quick notes on that. Tennessee obviously keeping a close eye on that game. Tennessee lost to Mississippi State 77-72 in January, beat LSU 88-68 in February. LSU does not have Jalen Cook, who is the guard for that team that barely plays. I texted one of my LSU sources just to say, hey, what happened with that guy? And he texted back, basically, he's a bleep. And it starts with an A. I don't want to get any. It rhymes with, I don't know what it rhymes with, but it starts with A and ends with E. But that's what it was from my source at LSU. All right, so in the first meeting with State guard Trey Hannibal scored 22 points with fellow backcourt mate Jordan Wright scoring 14. LSU shot 41% from the field. State is really good defensively. Which team would Tennessee prefer to play on Friday when they open the tournament, Caleb?
I'm actually going to go for a pride thing, and I'm going to say Mississippi State because Tennessee hasn't beaten Mississippi State yet this year, and I think Tennessee doesn't like that hanging over them. Yeah, and so I think it's more of a if you're trying to advance in the SEC tournament, I actually think you want to play Mississippi State. I don't believe Tennessee has lost to anybody. I think Tennessee's beaten every other team in the SEC at least once because their other losses were Kentucky, South Carolina, and Texas A&M. And they played all of them at home, or they played all of them and got revenge on those teams, or they at least beat all those teams once too. So Mississippi State's the one SEC team they haven't beaten this year. So, I mean, there is a little bit of I'm turning into like the sentimental one seed people matter. There's a little bit of pride in beating every team in the SEC in a year.
It's cool. I hadn't thought about it like that. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Thank you. Make sure you're subscribed. We greatly appreciate you. Become a John today. The link is right down below. Join Hooker's Corner, and I'm hooking you up with a State of Tennessee versus the NCAA t-shirt. That's a limited time up until the Vols lose in the SEC tournament. So I'm going to keep that going. So if you join for just $9.98 for increased recruiting coverage and more access to us and more, then all you have to do is sign up and you get a free t-shirt, just $9.98 a month. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation